What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I want to do a little check-in on the Life is Strange TV show, angle it a certain way, as you probably see from the title and whatnot. And, this is something I see talked about quite often in the Life is Strange group that I frequent, on social media. Great group of people, and I think we're all kind of on the same page, or at least the ones that I see we're on the same page. I don't think we're very thrilled, even with the fact that this show is still moving forward. So, really, that's kind of what has sparked this. Is the last couple months there's been a couple of outright confirmations from the people that are in charge of this show. They're like, there's going to be info, and it's basically, okay, number one, it's still moving forward, and number two, it might not actually be as far away as we think. Now that kind of is hilarious in its own right, because it's like, from what we feel, I think this is going to be a show based off the first game. So they're already 10 years too late, and even when this was announced, it was later. And then obviously they've taken this was announced so long ago. I think 5+ years. I think it was before COVID that this thing was announced. So it's been stuck in limbo forever, for eternity. And that's a big reason why I just don't trust it, right? It's like, if it ever comes out of limbo, good on it, I guess. I mean, I like it when games come out of limbo and, when they're in development hell. But at the same time, how many of those games actually turn out to be good? I think it's the same thing for a TV show. A thing that's stuck in development hell with a movie or a show, if it's there for as long as it's been, by the time it actually happens, how positive are we thinking on it? And, a lot's happened. A lot's happened since they announced it, and a lot has even happened in the last, year or so, both with, and I would argue this is really why I kind of want to take this video. A lot's happened with the Life is Strange group, and a lot has happened, I would say, with these adaptations still. Like, the adaptation thing, let's start there, is always kind of changing. When people think, we went so well, and all of a sudden we have this big success. So firstly, adaptations in general, I would say, on average, are not good. When you make these adaptations, movies, shows based off games. Now, we've had hits. You go back a little while ago, and you could have argued this, I think, quite heavily. You had The Last of Us and you had Fallout, and you had them almost back to back, right? And I think that was a fantastic, visual representation that, you could really do it well. Fallout, to this point, still really stands out in my head. I like The Last of Us Season 1 now. What has changed recently is Last of Us Season 2 came out, and it was always going to be divisive because of the game, but it seems like even fans of the game did not like the show. Ratings went down in terms of, and because look, you can talk about online discourse all you want, but also their products, they need to be watched in order to, generate. And it seems like factually the show dropped from Season 1 to Season 2. Less people viewed it, okay? Oh, let me also throw out Twisted Metal. So Twisted Metal, Last of Us Season 1, Fallout. Obviously, they've done really good with Castlevania and Arcane. There's been hits. I'm not saying there's been no hits, but let's be honest, okay? For all of those hits, we've also had things you can go way back in the day with Assassin's Creed, but what about Halo? That's in this modern, adaptation age. You have a mixed one with Last of Us Season 2. The Yakuza show, I have a huge, I'm not going to bore you, but the Yakuza show is one of the worst things I've ever seen in modern television, and that's a game franchise I adore to death. That was a big failure. We've had things like Borderlands. Technically, there's that Monster Hunter movie that was recent. The Tomb Raider thing tried for that movie. You can go down the list. Some people don't like the DMC show that just kind of appeared, right? So it's I don't know. I would say easily for every major success, there is at least, if not more than, one major failure. Witcher, you could throw in the Witcher show. I personally did not like the way that went. So, okay, that's a big one. That's always been a big one to me, where it's again, looking at kind of where this came from or when Life is Strange was announced to now, I still don't think we've entered this era where they're slam dunks. If anything, they're 50-50. You could say, okay, well, maybe, there's going to be a BioShock movie, and there's Horizon coming and all of this different stuff, Gears of War maybe. And again, maybe you take a split 50-50. All right, so there's a 50% chance that the Life is Strange show is either going to be amazing or terrible. And, okay, that really is the adaptation side. How about, what's happened with Life is Strange? So, personally, for me, where I come from is I think the only way of doing this well would be to very much copy the first game. And I would, for the most part, I would say that for a lot of these shows and just things in general. And I will say, Fallout, I think, proved that you don't have to do that. Fallout Season 1, I think, was spectacular, and it had the feel of Fallout, but it didn't necessarily have to follow anything, right? And I would actually throw out Twisted Metal as well. Twisted Metal felt like Twisted Metal to a degree. It also was just a really solid show, and then they kind of had Twisted Metal elements thrown in here and there. So that, I think, is a good example of doing it that way. I would say Last of Us Season 1 was, okay, this is how you expand what's already been done, right? It followed, not necessarily beat for beat, but it stayed very close, and then it expanded where it needed to expand. So it's really been done both ways. I think most times you see it done where they kind of just go crazy and they don't go by the source material. I think, if anything that's happened in the Life is Strange community, I feel like that would not be popular. And you tell me if I'm wrong. Again, I think it depends. I think like the general perception, at least when people say, hey, I wish you could follow it beat by beat, I see most people online disagreeing with that, saying, no, let the people kind of do whatever. I don't know if you could do that for Life is Strange. I think we've kind of seen with Life is Strange Double Exposure from people, like, what they feel when you kind of take source material and run with it. I mean, if people don't like, and including myself, I mean, again, I think it could have been done far, far better. If people don't like the angle they took with Max and Chloe and all that stuff in Double Exposure, then are you really going to like if they do Life is Strange 1 and they massively change things? Because let's be honest here, or I'll give you my honest prediction. I don't think there's a chance in hell that Life is Strange, the show, comes out, and if it's doing like the first game, there's no chance it's beat for beat. Absolutely zero. Number one, they would have to make a decision at the end. You'd have to save one or the other. So immediately, for a choice-based game like that, specifically the ending there, right? Again, it's more of an illusion of choice for most of the game, but whatever. A lot of those things, there's no way. There's no way that's going to satisfy people, because they're going to have to pick Arcadia Bay or Chloe. Okay, that's number one. Number two, again, I feel like the first game is held in such high regard, including by myself. I'm almost talking like I'm not part of it. The first game is one of my favorite games of all time. You do a show and you change some of those. I just feel like people are picky in the Life is Strange fandom, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I actually feel like I want that in other fandoms as well. You know what I mean? I don't see that working. If they change, even if they change like conversational pieces, but you got to nail the tone. You got to nail so many of the themes in the first game, and I just don't trust it. I don't trust it. It's not even coming from the most spectacular company. It's been in limbo forever. You've had all of these examples of adaptations either failing or working, and it's so again, it's already 50-50, and then do you really trust that it's going to be the 50 where it's not only do I think they're not going to do it exactly beat for beat, but then do I also trust them to do whatever they pick to do really, really well? I also just think Life is Strange 1 is so specific. To do it any other way, you almost get into tropes of it's just a teenage girl story. I mean, part of that is part of that's true, but it's there's so much that goes into that first game beyond just Max being a teenage girl going through life, and it's, what I mean? I feel like you can almost get watered down with that if you focus on it too much. You say, oh, well, this is why people like it. Well, people like it for 50 different reasons. Please have all 50, right? So I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith. I would heavily prefer it just doesn't happen. By the way, you have to cast everyone. I think immediately you're gonna upset people. I mean, you have people already throwing fan castings, and none of them really work because you need people that are 18, 19, 20, and people are throwing around people that are in their late 20s, and it's late 20 people can sometimes still be high school kids in movies and shows. But I think you'd go someone young. I think you'd probably go someone that nobody knows about, which actually might be a good... See, the thing is, you probably do want to go with nobodies because you don't have any labels that are already on them, right? Somebody that is a 19-year-old in Hollywood that maybe has been in 3 things that most people haven't seen, that's fine. You know what I mean? That can still be Max. You know what I mean? That can be our Max because so I actually would agree with that one. But again, okay, well, what are the odds that they nail everybody or that they introduce characters that weren't in it, and then you say, okay, well, how is that going to work? Or they take characters out, they just say, well, we don't like this character, they're not going to be in it. There's too many ways this isn't going to work, in my opinion. And to be honest with you, I've never put as much thought as I have in this video for the last 5 years because I just thought it was never going to happen. But it really seems like it's going to, which is exciting to a degree because it's something to talk about, and I would definitely cover it to death, honestly, on this channel, and also for my own personal amusement. But yeah, I mean, I just have not put a lot of thought into it up until this video because I just assumed it's in limbo. It's never going to happen. But I mean, I don't know. I think it actually very well might happen. But I don't know. The state of the Life is Strange franchise is messy right now, and even Square Enix owning it is messy. And it's like, so, would it ever break free of that and like become a show, and a show that they're all proud of? I don't know how that's gonna work. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.